potential of every citizen. According to the 2019 census, Kenya recorded more than 918,000 persons with disabilities aged 5 and above, including 9,729 persons with albinism. Because every statistic is a Kenyan citizen, a dream, a family, and a future. That is why my government has taken deliberate and sustained action to support persons with disabilities and persons with albinism. Although persons with disabilities form an integral part of every society, they continue to face systematic barriers in accessing education, in accessing health care, employment, public service, and economic opportunities. Some of these challenges are rooted in structural, social, and political and cultural systems, while others arise from institutional and attitudinal firm barriers that perpetuate exclusion and inequality. As a nation committed to justice, inclusion, and equal opportunity, we cannot allow these barriers to stand in the way of any Kenyan's aspiration and potential. It is for this reason that on the 8th of May 2025, it was my singular honor to assent to the Persons with Disabilities Act 2025. This landmark legislation repealed the outdated 2003 Act and gives fuller expression to Article 54 of our Constitution. It represents a significant step in our journey towards a more inclusive Kenya by affirming the rights of persons with disabilities to education, to employment, healthcare, political participation, and accessible environments. More importantly, the Act signals a historic shift from charity to rights, from exclusion to participation, and from good intentions to accountability. It reflects our determination to ensure that every person with disability is empowered to participate fully and equally in the social, economic, and political life of our nation. Further, it structures the National Council for Persons with Disabilities, strengthens access to justice, recognizes caregivers, and enhances accountability in the implementation of disability rights. This law represents a historic shift from welfare to rights, and from exclusion to participation, and from good intentions, as I've said, to accountability. It sends a clear message that disability inclusion is no longer optional. It is a national obligation. It is a constitutional imperative. As I stated when signing the bill into law, the real work begins now. That is why I directed the reinstatement of the disability mainstreaming performance indicator in the public service performance contracts to ensure measurable progress across government institutions. Our commitment is unwavering and will translate the promise of this law into tangible improvements in the lives of our people. In addition to the law, my administration recently approved the National Disability Policy, bringing to an end a 19-year journey towards the adoption of this critical framework. For almost 2 decades, the policy remained a work in progress. Today, we have provided the leadership and political will necessary to conclude that process and establish a clear roadmap for advancing the rights, inclusion, and empowerment of persons with disabilities. Our commitment to inclusion is not only reflected in legislation and policy reforms, but also in the increasing representation of persons with disabilities in leadership and decision-making positions of government. Today, persons with disabilities are serving with distinction in constitutional commissions, independent offices, the Public Service Commission, Parliament, county governments, and across the public service as a whole. The appointment and service affirmer believe that leadership and ability are not defined by disability, but by competence, by integrity, and commitment to serving the nation. I have heard many of you say that the journey is not yet complete and that you'd like to see even greater representation of persons with disabilities in the highest levels of leadership. My message is simple. Continue to prepare, continue to excel, and continue to step forward. As a government, we remain committed to opening doors and expanding opportunities because Kenya can only benefit when all its talent is given the opportunity to serve. Through the National Council for Persons with Disabilities and the National Albinism Sunscreen Support Program, we continue to provide sunscreen lotions, protective gear, eye care services, educational support, assistive technologies, scholarships, and awareness programs that combat stigma and discrimination. The program currently reaches thousands of registered persons with albinism through government health facilities across the country. In the financial year 2026-2027, we have allocated Kenya shillings 200 million specifically towards autism and albinism programs as part of our proper social protection agenda. 200 million has been provided. We have also deliberately integrated persons with disabilities into flagship programs such as the Affordable Housing and Social Health Authority to ensure inclusive and equitable access to decent housing and quality health care. Through the nation's development fund for persons with disabilities, we continue to support economic empowerment, entrepreneurship, and financial resilience. Ladies and gentlemen, the theme of this year's International Albinism Awareness Day, Proudly in My Skin, celebrating all skin tones, reminds us a profound truth. Human dignity is not determined by appearance. Human worth is not determined by disability. Every Kenyan matters. Every Kenyan belongs, and every Kenyan has something valuable to contribute to our national journey. As we celebrate the transformative power of education today, we must reaffirm our commitment to protecting our schools as spaces of learning, discipline, innovation, and character formation. Violence, destruction, and unrest have no place in institutions established to nurture the future of our nation. The government takes cases of unrest and indiscipline in schools very seriously. There can never be any justification for action that results in loss of life or destruction of property. Any grievances should always be addressed through the appropriate channels without resorting to actions that harm others. As a government, we will never condone actions or acts of violence, vandalism, or any form of lawlessness in our schools. We remain committed to ensuring that learning institutions remain safe environments for all students and staff. The government therefore urges parents and guardians to reflect on the crucial role of discipline in raising responsible youth. Negative behavior in our adults often stems from years of unchecked disrespect, entitlement, and lack of accountability in childhood. The Bible says in Proverbs 13:24, whoever spares the rod hates their children, but the one who loves their children is careful to discipline them.